Hello, I'm Crystal Joy.
I'm David Raz.
And this is On the Chair with Crystal.
And David.
This is a podcast where we talk about all the inspiration and true stories behind the YouTube videos that we make.
If you haven't seen those videos, that's okay. You can enjoy the podcast anyway. However, if you want more context, go and check them out. They're a good watch.
Yeah, they really took a lot of my life away from me. So please maybe watch them. Also, but if you don't know who the fuck we are, please stay. Like, please. It's a good time. We're really fun. Look, a cat. Today, we are talking about the behind-the-scenes stories of Are You a Toxic Person? This is actually a video that we made a little while ago, but we were backlogging episodes for ones that we think have particularly interesting backstories for when we go live with the podcast. So there should be one or two other episodes for you to enjoy as we watch this one. The toxic person video, was basically what was the structure of that one? It was like a quiz. If you could... Yeah. What's the toxic thing to do here? What would a toxic person do here? Yeah. And the thing is to ask yourself, like, what would I do? You know, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a collective of a bunch of toxic experiences that we've had. Yeah. So all of the little questions are like scenarios that were based on experiences and stories that happened to us. And of course, the premise was like I asked the question via the scenario, and one could either answer with what they would do or what they think the toxic thing to do is. Right. And then we could be like, well, your inclination is toxic, so congrats on that one. Or I'd be like, this is what one toxic person would do, and the person who said basically that would have been like, oh fuck, self-reflection time. Self-reflection. That's I do that. I do that, but that's not a that's an oh no. That's a oh no. And the stories we will try to move through relatively quickly because there's 5 of them. Each one of them had like a takeaway that I wanted to focus on, which we kind of talked about in the video, but there was more to it. Hence the podcast. So the very, very first scenario was something hyper specific that was based on a friend of ours. Well, mostly David's friend. Yeah. I know the person and we're friendly, but it's David's friend. What do we want to call him? Brian. Brian? Okay. Brian is David's friend. Yeah. And the scenario is basically, for those who did not watch the video or need a refresher because it's been a minute, you or player is with an SO, and player also has a friend of preferred gender that they're attracted to. Right. And friend, they like the friend. Like, player has crush on friend, even though they're with an SO. Friend, as far as they know, does not like the main player. But they're starting to drop hints like... that might like you. Oh, I think friend likes main player, right? And basically the main player ignores any signs, like, is like, no, it's fine, we're just friends, like, stop freaking out, even though they know that they have feelings for the person. And they have a very strong suspicion that the person has feelings for them, but to the SO, it's like, don't even worry about it. Basically, the friend thinks... there's something, friend kisses main player, SO sees it, freaks out. What do you do? It's based off of our friend, David's friend, Brian. Our friend, I don't know. Will Brian be upset? I don't know. Well, Brian won't care. Brian won't care? Okay. No. It's primarily David's friend, Brian. And there was a story when I was writing this out, the scenario reminded me of something that David told me about that Brian dealt with. Brian went to jury duty at one point. Right. And at jury duty, granted, Brian had been with a significant other. We're gonna call her Kara. Kara, it's a cool name. Kara. Okay, so Brian has been with Kara for a while. Goes to jury duty and meets Selena. And Selena was their jury duty buddy, and they become friends. And Selena starts to like Brian. Brian's like, don't worry about it, even though Brian kind of liked them too. It's like he even said it though to you. Yeah. Like, yeah, I think Selena's really cute. Like, I kind of like her. Not a problem. But I'm in a relationship with Kara, so that's fine. Kara doesn't like it. Kara's like, hey, not okay. And Brian's like, don't worry about it. Oh, did Kara actually speak up at some point? I think they began to fight about it. Oh, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, all right, yeah. Well, I tried to warn Brian, hey, maybe not the best idea. Maybe don't do that. Maybe Kara's not going to like that. And Brian was like, not even like that. Like, Kara doesn't care. Kara doesn't care. Kara did care. I'm not like that. I'm not going to do anything. And then David was like, I'm pretty sure Selena likes you. And he was like, what? I don't know. Like, whatever. What? And then... I don't remember that happening, but I do.
I don't think, did they? Something happened.
Something happened where there was a confessional of some kind where it was very, very clear that Selena does, in fact, like Brian. It's kind of undeniable. And then Brian to David was like,
what do I do?
No, not even what do I do? Just, oh, fuck, I think I like Selena, like a lot. And David was like,
what?
What?
No way.
No, you... Not like I've been saying that for like months, but okay.
Not you putting yourself into a bad situation.
No.
No way.
And that's the story that... How it ended up, I think Brian was like, that's probably not good. I should stick with Kara. And so they're still together. Him and Kara worked it out. I don't know what happened to Selena, but whatever.
I don't know. I
never met
Selena.
I don't think I've even met Kara.
I don't think you have. I have.
It's okay.
But, yeah, they fought about it, and then they made it work. But toxic behavior, put yourself in that bad situation. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, and so the takeaway, not the takeaway, but like the answer, like what's the toxic thing to do here? I put gaslighting. Gaslighting was the toxic thing and the toxic trait. So the answer was basically like, you didn't see anything. What do you even mean? Like, even though player knowingly did these things, they're like, You're just making things up because you're insecure. Well, They kissed you. It's like, they kissed me and you didn't blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't do anything. Like, and David took it really far. It's like, you saw nothing.
You saw nothing.
This was a fever dream. But gaslighting people do be doing that, though.
Interestingly enough, gaslighting is prevalent, but it's even worse when you gaslight yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody always talks about, gaslighting from a partner, which is also very bad. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of what happened in that case. Nothing's going to happen. Don't worry about it.
But he was
gaslighting himself.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That was a situation of him gaslighting himself. Like, that's an undesirable thing that bad people do. And I'm not a bad people. So, of course, I'm not doing that until it's like, oh, fuck. Oops. Okay. I was doing that all along.
You just look and you turn, there's a mirror there. You're like, that's me.
Shit.
Fuck.
I wrote, being self-aware isn't the end-all be-all, like the Bo Burnham thing. I mentioned this exact same thing in another podcast, I believe, but you can be self-aware and know that you have a tendency to do that, but if you're not acting on it to fix it, that's not helpful. So self-awareness, though, is the key here. So if you're gaslighting yourself, you are convincing yourself that this negative, unwanted feeling is not the reality within you. Right. And it puts you in a position where you're like, I'm not doing that, so I'm going to do that. Right. It's not like that, so I'm going to do this thing. But it's not like that, but it is like that. And you just don't want to admit it to yourself. So you need that first step of self-awareness of like, I like XYZ or behave in XYZ way because of XYZ problem. Maybe I should work on that. And then the next thing is making steps. But I do think being self-aware is a bit more important than... It's not an excuse. It's not like I'm self-aware like Bo Burnham was saying. It's like people use self-awareness as an excuse to be shit. Yeah. I was like, I'm just like that.
No. Self-awareness is so important because if you can't see a problem, then you can't solve a problem. Yeah. But you can't see a problem and be like, that problem's fine. That problem's me.
Oh my God, me.
Yeah, no, that's not why self-awareness is important.
Yeah, no. But gaslighting, I think a lot of, like you were saying, a lot of people focus on being gaslit from other people, which is a problem, but not enough people admit to themselves the reality of things sometimes. Right. I have a really bad, I mean, it's not a habit, I've learned, but I have an ability to read people really well. Call it what you want, whether it's intuition or empath or trauma from having to read people growing up.
Or trauma. Whatever.
All the same, I can read people really, really, really well, to the point that they really don't like it. And what is obvious to me, I explain it like people are holding up a big red sign that says, I feel this way. This is my situation. And they've said truly nothing, but it's like the equivalent of just like wearing a shirt that says, I'm sad today. Or, it's like, or even something more obvious. It's less, I'm sad, more like, this is my very hyper-specific situation. And I just know it. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's like that.
I have this issue.
I have this specific issue. And often, as a person who was conditioned to worry about above myself as a child, I would make the mistake of asking, like, hey, what's going on? Is this the case? And people who very much gaslight themselves about the reality of their situation got very mad.
What do you mean? That's very presumptuous of you.
You're so judgmental. And I'm like, whoa, I was just making sure you're okay. I'm sorry.
I was just asking, Kit. If it's not true, why does thou protest?
Well, yeah. Why dost thou me think so death protesteth too much?
Little too much.
But that does happen a lot. And because I've seen that in so many people in so many walks of life, I think it's a predominant issue that not enough people talk about, that you gaslight yourself a lot. Not you.
Not you.
Of course, you're not like that.
You, them.
Of
you,
course,
us?
We are never like that ever. We're perfect. She said with deep sarcasm.
And also proving her point.
Yeah, basically. The next question, did you have anything else to say about gaslighting before we move on? I think it was just that it's a new perspective. Are you gaslighting yourself in any way? And it kind of goes into what I mentioned in other podcasts again, which is just an important theme. Shadow work. It's like this undesirable thing. That's like, that's a trait that is nasty and undesirable, and I've deemed it as such, so it could never be in me.
I think it's important that the player themselves was the one that had to come up with the gaslighting. It's, to show that you can gaslight someone else, but also it's to show the player kind of gaslighting themselves into what they think. If you're playing it honestly, you could be gaslighting yourselves right there to thinking what is not toxic versus what is. And I wanted to have that reflected in the game. Yeah.
Just identifying that, like, this is a trait that is undesirable and I'm not that. And it's the important step of being like, oh, I can have undesirable traits sometimes. And are they really a bad thing if I am aware of them and can then counterbalance them? Because I don't think there's any specifically like evil thing. You know what I mean? It's just like, it actually, what makes something bad is the inability to look at it in the face and say, oh, this is a problem. That's when bad stuff really starts to happen. Wanted to drive that home. The second story, if I'm not mistaken, it was your best friend moves away. And they make a new friend. They're only talking about that friend, and they don't really call you as much, but when they do call, they only talk about the new friend. And friend. And
this was a story that was specifically from you.
Yes, this was my personal story. It wasn't exactly the same. Oh, what was the answer there?
The answer to the best friend
manipulation.
Manipulation.
So the story of that is like, what do you do to the friend? Like, how do you get your friend back?
So what was the actual, or maybe not the actual story, but what was the actual story of what happened then? Shortened version.
A shortened version. I had two friends, actually. Nobody moved away.
Okay.
I had two friends, more so present. We're going to call them one, the friend I kind of knew but wasn't besties with, but just like we're cool. We're going to name her Petunia. And then there was the friend that I didn't know was Petunia's friend, but like we did meet and clicked, like became best friends very, very quickly.
Denise.
I did know a Denise a few years ago. This is not about
not the same person.
This is a fictional. Her name was not Denise. So Petunia and Denise. And I was actually the friend that was stealing away the best friend. Oh. I know. So Petunia and Denise were best friends.
Were you the manipulator?
No. I was the one who prompted the manipulator to move.
Okay.
I was stealing Petunia's best friend. So Petunia and Denise were best friends since like babies.
Yes.
They grew up in the same neighborhood.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They were like 5 or something. They were friends for like a long time.
Okay.
And then I came into the scene, and Denise, not the most healthy person in and of herself. Very much made it a very big point that I was her new best friend. Now, for what reason? I don't fucking know. But looking back at it, I'm like,
maybe they were just an expressive person.
Yeah, I could see Denise was just a very expressive person, very like all or nothing about something. And
well, I'm sure Petunia did not like that.
no, Petunia fucking hated that.
But you didn't know this.
No, I was just like, oh, new friends, because I had a lot of friend issues in high school because I was not popular. I was very frequently called very bad names and had maybe 2 friends, lost those ones, found another one finally. You know, like
and this was that journey.
And this was that journey. Like found another one in Denise. And then I was already kind of friendsies-ish, like cool enough with Petunia. And I was like, oh, I'll also be closer to Petunia. So cool.
Yeah.
No.
No. That's not what happened.
No.
Oh,
Things were, I want to make it, it's going to sound like this all happened all at once, but this was over the course of a few years. Like,
I see.
Sophomore in high school when that started, and then I was going into my senior year while being homeschooled.
Okay.
So a minute.
So it's towards the end of...
So this isn't all at once.
Okay.
But
over a couple of years.
Yeah. Petunia always was like not very hiding the fact that she did not like that Denise thought of me as the official best friend.
Yes.
And I'm just going to pinpoint like 1 or 2 circumstances that ended up at a head so I don't talk the entire podcast about it.
And did any of it end up in the video?
It's the premise of the happening rather than the specifics.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the premise was the Petunia was player in this particular case. Petunia was mad that Denise found new friend, me, and was like, how do I get my friend back? Manipulation. And this manipulation happened over a minute. So it's just gonna like maybe 2 engagements.
Yes.
And a cutoff so we don't talk for too long. But engagement 1, I got homeschooled my junior year of high school. Long story. OGs who have been with me since forever. I've been on the internet for a long time. Will know this story, but I got homeschooled. Maybe we'll talk about it another day. But I was very quickly alienated from my 2 friends because of the nature of homeschool. And I wanted to hang out, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll pick you up after school because we could drive because we're juniors, and we'll like hang out after whatever.
Right.
And there was many times where that just fell through and it didn't happen.
So they just left you there?
Kind of. The primary moment was we were going to go to Waffle House in the South. Don't miss that place. And I was like, I'm going to wait. We're going to pick you up. We'll be there in 15 minutes. 4 or 5 hours went by.
4 or 5 hours.
And
Oof.
I was texting both Petunia and Denise, and nobody said anything. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. And then later, I don't really hear from Denise. I hear from Petunia that Denise just was like, Petunia was like, when are we going to go pick up Crystal? Are we going to go pick her up and take her? And Denise was like, no, I don't want to go all the way over there right now. She'll figure it out. Supposedly verbatim, the words out of her mouth were, she'll figure it out when asked, well, she's waiting on you. What are you going to tell her? She'll figure it out. And obviously that sounds like a super fucked up person thing to say.
Yeah.
But also like...
In hindsight, do you think Petunia might have been...
Maybe Petunia planted a fuck Crystal seed in Denise's head that made Denise want to do that in the first place. I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe she actually didn't say that.
I don't know. Maybe she didn't. That's
that
how manipulation works.
That was the whole manipulation part.
And so we're all, blah, blah, blah. And then the next important happening. Things are weird after that. Denise has a boyfriend. Boyfriend is kind of shitty. Shitty boyfriend hits Denise.
Oh, abuse.
Physically harms Denise. And I'm told about it. And I'm like, that's not okay.
Right.
Snapshot. Me and Denise have this relationship where when I had a boyfriend that she did not like when I was a little younger, she was vehemently adamant about fuck that person every 5 seconds. Even if nothing really happened, it was just like, fuck that guy. He's a piece of shit. Fuck them mean to his face. Real rude. So I just thought, oh, when we don't like, have that kind of a relationship, when we don't like boyfriend, we go, hey, this is not okay. Right. I was not as mean as she was to my ex, but I was like, hey, kid, you shouldn't be hit. That's not acceptable. I don't care.
We're going to go with the lowest bar. Maybe not be hit.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And not that it's her fault, but it's just...
Bar was really low.
but that's just your entry, like, hey, being hit is not okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, and that did not go over well, to say less. that didn't go over well, resulted in phone call and who said and passive aggressive MySpace bulletin board posts, dating myself.
So how was that in the video?
That was not necessarily in the video. This is all the manipulation.
I see.
The way it plays out in the video is they said that you said something, and then the player goes to the other person. They said you said this, and then before you know it, they're fighting, and that's what this peak was. This peak was like us fighting about something which shouldn't be an issue.
But it was an issue.
But it was an issue because of all of these little moments, like the Waffle House incident.
Gotcha.
And then by the way, Petunia is on the phone with me, and then hanging up, and then is on the phone with, like, straight up Mean Girl style. Like, hold on, let me call. I'm sick. Like, straight up, like, instigating between, like, I don't know, she's saying this, and I was like, call
interesting.
her, like, blah blah blah, you said this, well, blah blah blah, you said that, and then Petunia the whole time is just kind of like taking the back seat, like, oh no,
getting my friend back. That's what that looks like.
And then it ended with me crying alone on my couch with no friends.
An
so
actual sadness.
Again, that happened to me multiple times in high school. God, poor teenage baby me. I love you. I love you to my poor teenage baby me. And that was, to me, like, I still don't know exactly what happened, but to me, that was like the prime example of manipulation.
Yeah.
In action in my life. So I really wanted to use that as an example in the video. And the takeaway basically was like, when we don't get what we want, it's easy to find ways to make that happen.
Right.
Do I think that Petunia was just like
twirling an evil mustache
going, oh, I'm going to ruin everything? No, but this, like, justification happens of, like, well, if they fight, then it's not my fault.
Right.
But then, like, there's a subconscious urge to start fights. And you know what I mean? And that's in and of itself an entirely different psychological, like, wormhole you can go down as to why people manipulate people.
Probably Petunia just saying, I'll not have a friend anymore.
Mm-hmm. Fear.
Here is, this person is stealing my friend away.
Mm-hmm.
I am
preserving myself and my well-being and my happiness.
I should be the one who is the best friend.
Mm-hmm. I think the base, we'll see through all of these, but one of the most primary takeaways is that anybody can be toxic for any reason.
Yeah.
Like, this is not only bad people are toxic thing. It's very accessible and is seen a lot.
I think you wanted to highlight, like, certain aspects in which people can be toxic. And then I wanted not only people to say, am I toxic, but I can relate to that.
You're like, oh yeah, like, fuck, maybe I've done that or had the inclination to want to do that, and that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person.
Right.
But to be like, oh fuck, that inclination is there. Let's figure that out was the important thing. Okay. The third question was actually not based off on a specific happening. That was more of a general, like, thing that I think I should touch on for the nature of the video, which was toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
It was some vague, like, kid comes home crying, you have a son, and you're just like, what do you do? And it was like, don't you cry. It's like super vague.
Over the, like, obvious toxic masculinity, which is like, men don't cry.
Yeah. And what the funny thing about this is that, like, though this was not based on a personal story or happening to me, and it was something that was just like, this is general and probably should be included, because David specifically, though he was playing, asked me to include it because he felt that it was very important.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, we'll include that. That one got some people mad.
That did get some people angry. And I think it speaks to exactly why I wanted to put it in the video in the first place, which is a lot of men who his identity is in these masculine toxic behaviors that don't seem toxic. Right? I think transitioning from a time in which men do men things and women do women things to what is a new way of thinking now, a lot of people have trouble transitioning their thought processes. And that's why I think this particular question rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah, I agree. And just in general, I want to take accountability for not being the perfect person. Nobody's perfect, but that doesn't make it okay. Somebody left a very long, snarky, nasty comment.
As you would, yeah.
Like, got very upset, very triggered. You just don't understand. Men don't have emotions like women have emotions, so you wouldn't get it because I was the one hosting the video. He assumed that it was my preference.
Right.
And so I left a comment like, looks like we hit a nerve. Maybe you should go to therapy. It's a good comeback, but
it is.
But I want to acknowledge that if anyone is actually looking to help and improve something, poking at a wound is not going to heal the wound.
Correct.
That's not the goal here. So, not okay, dear person. My bad, my man. Simultaneously,
But we did end up responding.
David was the one who took the reins, being a lovely person, was like, okay. Because this actually has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with David wanting to include it. And he responded.
My main goal was to have the men who understand, or people in general, because toxic masculinity can be in anyone, understand that these concepts that we grew up with are not healthy. They don't allow exactly what we've been suffering from, which is men to express themselves well. And we're always shunned for feeling any kind of way. And as a man, you're supposed to say,
quote unquote, for those who aren't on video.
Quote unquote, I don't have these emotions, or I'm strong enough to not let these emotions take over because men are more logical or whatever. And that in itself is the problem, right? And so I wanted that to be in the video because I think it's a very obvious toxic trait that is in society.
So okay, there's a few, we could make an entire podcast about that specific thing, so we will try to keep it to specific points. My first question is, you mentioned I've had a couple of instances growing up in which specifically, being a kid, kids don't understand that. You start to cry, and an older male will tell me, hey, stop crying. Men don't cry. Or even from an older guy and woman told me, hey, boys don't cry. That's internalized misogyny.
Don't cry. Deal with your shit. Like, stop. And I'm like, what, 7, 5? But this is what's being taught as you're growing up. So as you grow up, you're like, okay, I guess I don't cry. Well, how does that manifest in other ways? I don't know, abuse. Like
all energy. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But this is important. I feel all energy will be expressed whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you can't not express it.
Emotions are energy, and you can be like, oh, I don't have that. Let me just put it away. It will manifest elsewhere, whether it's you having heart problems as an adult, or whether it's in subconscious mistreatment or rage to random things.
Yeah.
You don't get to pick when the energy must be expressed if you stop it when it's trying to be expressed naturally.
I mean, why would you even think that some men sound so misogynistic? Like, it becomes a subconscious, you're allowed to have emotions and I'm not. It becomes bitter. Bitter. It becomes bitter. Yeah. You have it easier than I do, and that's because you're not expressing yourself, buddy.
Yeah, and I think they're like, women, what I was saying before was that you mentioned this old school idea of women do this and men do this.
Yes.
It was expressed in that comment of like, women just don't do that. Men just don't have that understanding of emotions. And I'm like, no, and then you said also the new way. And I want to give name to what that new way is. And the new way is that humanity is a universal experience that is not defined by our chromosomes.
Correct.
Men have more testosterone. You might be a little bit more amped and might want to climb a tree more. Women have more estrogen. We might have the same exact feeling at the same exact level of feeling, but it might express in a physical tear or in a red spots on your chest or whatever. But the feeling and the emotion is the same.
Right.
The chromosomes do not dictate the human experience.
Correct. And that's why you're starting to find out nowadays. It's just like, oh, you'll see videos. I love this. Women are just as horny as men. What?
No.
Women like sex too. What? And I don't know.
The women.
The women
like the sex. What?
You see a lot of comics talking about that too.
It's like
they want what we want. But I think that division is what comes from the birth of toxic masculinity.
And it starts when you're really young too.
It does. It starts when you're really young.
I actually wrote down here, forced gender norms at a young age is really weird. And it reminded me, I wrote that because I saw a TikTok of like a great example of how this is forced so early.
Yeah.
A baby, like a newborn baby, had a girl, like little shorts. Like, right? This is a newborn baby, like 3 months old. This is male's shorts.
Yes.
This is what shorts look like for a 3-month-old baby male, quote unquote, like masculine clothing. And then they held up 3-month-old baby girl shorts, and they were like ass shorts. They were like little Daisy Duke ass shorts for a 3-month-old baby.
Already getting into that weird
Yes.
sexualization.
Yeah, and it's also like, no, don't talk to me, ladies. My mom's the only one for me. Like on like a fucking 16-month-old. You know what I mean? Like off the wall, like forcing little baby potato humans into this like gendered, you are this and you are sexualized in this way, and you are this and you sexualize others in this way.
Yeah.
And it's not just sexual, it's also like, you don't cry, you do cry, you're a little pissy baby because you cry and you like pink, so I don't take you seriously. You aren't allowed to cry, so if you cry because I don't take the one to cry seriously, then you're
just like them.
You're less of a human.
And your opinion also doesn't matter. That's
Yeah.
another thing too. If men cry, it's like your opinion doesn't matter then, because you are like a girl, which again is wrong
It's
in
basically
all
just
aspects.
saying this version of human experience is
Negative,
and disgusting and to be looked down upon.
not wanted.
Not wanted. And that's mean. Well, that's really mean.
It's mean.
I don't like it.
Well, it shuts down that energy, and where does that energy go? It goes into toxic places. People, it then starts to manifest as toxic traits in men and women and everyone.
So I have a question then.
Yeah.
What is it to be not toxically masculine? What does it mean to be masculine for you as a human? Like, what does that look like then?
That's a tough question. I think it's not. I mean, it's just being a person, like being a good person. Like that doesn't have to be a masculine thing, but being a good person, and you identify as a male, that's good masculinity. There you go.
There you go.
But
I mean,
it's just not tied to just being a man, though.
I would probably say I am not a man. I am a woman. But my ideal of what makes sense to my brain, some other guy said this on TikTok, so this is from another dude, basically using what is your default settings in your hormone cycle or your physical well-being to make the world around you a better place.
Yeah.
So you probably have more testosterone. When you want to climb a tree, go climb a tree to save a kitty. You know, like,
Sure.
if you have these like default setting, like, you know, you have more testosterone, so you're more aggressive. Okay, channel that energy in a helpful way.
Right.
You know, if I feel like that's the closest you can get to what it actually is to be one or the other in a quote unquote healthy way. It's like, just be a good human with the tools that you find yourself in the body that you have.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that'll might change depending on the body or depending on if you want to transition or something. But whatever tools you have in your body, use that to make the world a better place. And that is you being a good man or a good woman or a good non-binary baby, beautiful angel of
Beautiful.
lovely.
A beautiful angel baby.
I think the last point of that is to fully become the best version of your identification as possible.
Sure.
You're going to see this in almost every single fucking podcast, but it goes back to just trying your best to be your best self and being self-aware. And I have to recommend the book Letting Go. It's very, very good. No, it's a great book. It has a yellow cover. Don't remember the author right now, but it helps you guide through the untangling of the web that happens when you don't allow yourself to live the human experience.
Right.
What to do with that energy and how to untangle it and transmute it to be more helpful to you so that you can actually be like a non-toxic man or a non-toxic woman or whatever.
Yeah, and I do want to just add a little bit to that. And I think having the human experience be a thing be the forefront is very important, because a lot of what we deem to be toxic masculinity is going against what the human experience is.
It's denying it.
Denying it. You don't have emotions. You can't enjoy things that men don't enjoy. And I think toxic masculinity hurts men more than men realize.
Than anybody else, really?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's going to echo and it's going to hurt everyone around you. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that men who are having these traits understand just how much it negatively affects them as well. It's stopping you from having this human experience, and it's something that humans should have. I mean,
it's your right to have it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I agree. The next little story question in the Toxic People video was what was the trait? Gossip. And that was portrayed in a story about, for those who haven't seen it or need a refresher, player overhears coworker talk about how they had a DUI and they don't want to drink anymore.
That's right.
And they almost hurt somebody really bad.
And this was also a personal story from you.
This is a personal story from me, yeah. And in the question, player, the person's getting put up for a promotion above player, that same person, player, what do you do to make it so that you get the promotion instead? And the answer was gossip. So you gossip about the fact that they lied on their interview about being a convicted felon.
Just so that people would look at them more negatively.
And then
you would be praised and get the position.
Yeah.
So how much of that was from your personal life?
Once again, it's more scenario, less specifics. I was not at a job and nobody talked shit about me, but I did.
Well, that's not true. You weren't at a job, but people did talk shit about you.
I mean, at a job. Like, nobody was trying to get a raise or a promotion ahead of me.
Right.
But I was in the situation, I was the person who shared a personal story and then got fucked over for it by somebody who wanted
a position over you.
Yeah, basically.
Or a position that they were heading you to have.
Yes. So the story behind that basically was Spark Notes. On our channel, there's a video called I Partied Every Day for 6 months. And that's not an exaggeration. That's true life facts with Crystal. I did party every day for 6 months.
That's a lot of partying, girl.
Yes, it is. I partied myself out real fast.
But that spoke to something you were going through at the time.
Yeah, I was very sad and very depressed. Peak alcoholism. I come from a genetic line, I'll say, of alcoholism and substance abuse. And I was very sad. And it really took a big toll on my life there. I decided to take a step back and stop it at some point. I just literally cold turkeyed it. I realized one day, I came home, was sad. Ugh, I need a drink. And I was like, oh my God, no, I will not be this person. And so I didn't. And I stopped.
We recognize that that's not easy for those who are struggling with alcoholism or drinking.
No, I'm just a stubborn bitch.
And you just refused.
I refused. From the core of my being.
But even that is I know it's difficult.
Yeah.
That's just Crystal's experience.
That's my personal experience. My stubbornness outplayed my physical desire and sadness. I am just that fucking stubborn. I will not be like them. I won't. So then I moved on, started to heal, stayed back to church because I, for those who don't know, deconstructed from evangelical Christianity mid-20s. And so at this period of time in my life, I was 18. 18, yes. Went to church and tried to go what was familiar to me, which was that. And this person at church was cool.
Right. So they befriended you.
We're going to call her what?
Brienne.
I met Brienne. Brienne was cool. Befriended me. We're close, but it was you don't get close until you hang out, and we were hanging out and share stuff. And so she shared some stuff, and then I shared that. And I was like, yeah, I used to be an alcoholic and this and blah blah blah, and blah blah blah. It was a nice moment, or so I thought.
Or so you thought. Foreshadowing.
Or so I thought. Spark Notes. Brienne was in the choir and I was in the choir, and Brienne did not like that I also was as good as she was.
And so in order to stop you from singing where she wanted to sing,
she started telling everybody that
your story.
I was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was highlighted by this one tiny moment that I'll also mention where we went to a Mexican restaurant or something for somebody's birthday that was stupidly fucking expensive.
Right. So
nobody told anybody. If you do that, I hate you.
In the position where, let's all pay. And it's just super expensive.
The bill. And then the bill's $500 and I got soup. Fuck you. Fuck you for that. That's another gripe. Totally unrelated. But at that moment, me, Brienne, and another person did not have money. So let's split an ice cream. Right? And we split an ice cream, but it's a fancy schmancy Mexican restaurant. So the ice cream is tequila ice cream.
Nice. Never had that.
It was good.
It was good?
Yeah, I loved it. But at that point in my journey, I was not a triggered alcoholic. I could have small tastes and be okay. I truly had cleared myself of it 100%.
Right.
And a dabble of ice cream
was not gonna.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm okay. And so they brought it out, took the tequila, and poured it on top. And Brienne made this nasty fucking face, like, no,
judgment.
like judgment. And
Immediate
she was like,
judgment.
"You ruined it." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, that's how the ice cream comes." And I'm just like, okay. And then before I knew it, she was telling everybody that I was an alcoholic, and I stopped getting like put in positions for singing, and I got really belittled, especially when I started talking to David again. So she also had Brienne's a bad person.
Brienne lets bad characteristics manifest.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, I have to listen. I try my best. I try my best here. I do, but Brienne is the kind of human that to me is like human sandpaper.
Sure.
Like, it is.
You just don't vibe.
No, but it's not just that we don't vibe.
No, I know. I'm trying to make it nice.
I know that I cannot control anybody outside of myself, so I have opted to just hopefully never see this person ever again, and know that Brienne is on her own journey, and I really, for the world, I hope that she gets better.
But you also hope that you never see them again.
I hope I never see her fucking again in my life. There is a multitude of really fucked up things like that this woman has done and said.
All right. So, and that's why it made it into the video, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, Crystal, reel it in. Reel it in.
So that made it into the video.
Send her love.
Send her love.
Fuck.
And that is gossip.
That was gossip. So the main takeaway I wanted from that story in that moment was that, like, gossip is so easy. It goes from, like, sharing, oh, fuck, did you know this very important thing that affects everybody?
Right.
To, oh, so, like, let's all change our view of somebody because of something that I have an opinion on.
So it's like a form of manipulation in a way.
In a way, sure. I think gossip is it's so easy to do. Because who does not love some tea?
I mean, everyone loves tea.
You know what I mean? Like, everybody
there's
loves
tea
some
shops.
tea. There's tea shop. There's tea studios. Like,
just saying.
Now, the question is, it's like, oh, this happened. You have to ask yourself, I think, am I participating in gossip that's a harmful and toxic thing to do?
Right.
Versus, am I being informed of something that happened? Like, does the person that this happened to, is this harming them in any way? Or are they harming other people? You know, it's like, oh, did you hear that somebody's hurting somebody else? No, fuck. Thank you for telling me that somebody's hurting somebody else. I need to know that. Did you know that?
There's a fine line in gossip. I think
versus,
that's why.
Versus, like, here's a private story about somebody that hurts the person that it's about.
And you have no business knowing.
And you have no business knowing that.
But here it is.
Yeah.
Isn't that titillating?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think because it's so easy, I wanted to put it in there. Because, again, the whole point of this video is, like, anybody can be toxic at any time.
Right.
It is not, I am toxic. I want to talk so much shit about Brienne, but we won't.
No, we won't. So what was the next one?
I'm sorry. I made myself laugh. But that's the point. That's what I'm trying to make, is that anybody can gossip. And I think to make that you're not, ask yourself, who is this hurting?
Yeah.
And is this helpful or is this hurtful? Is this helpful in knowing it and sharing it, or is this hurtful? And now don't be like playing yourself like, no, it's really helpful. Everybody needs to know that Crystal was an alcoholic and that she shouldn't sing music anymore on the stage. Because this is a Christian church and we don't drink here. Fuck all what Jesus did for his first miracle, I guess. But it's okay.
We're not secretly going into passive aggressive gossip now
either.
either.
I did that on purpose.
I know.
I did it on purpose. For those of you who are not on the video podcast, I just shared a lovely smile with the camera. But no, seriously, that was a great example of, like, I'm being sneakily gossiping about something.
Right.
It is that easy.
It is.
And I think the most important thing to do is maybe think before you open your mouth when it comes to somebody else.
Yeah, well, that's hard for me.
When it comes to somebody else?
Yeah, that's hard for me. No. Usually when it comes to myself, it's hard for me.
That's one thing. But if it comes to other people or hearing about something I think one of the best things I've ever heard from somebody talking about that was there was I don't need to know the whole situation, but a happening that a person was not a part of, but was a part of the friend group. And it was such a pivotal reason as to why many things happen in the friend group. And one person did not know about it at all. But I was like, did you know about vague happening in very vague terms? No, but if it's not yours to tell, then don't tell it. And I wasn't not going to, but it was just like, were you told about that or no? Like, how much information can I share about this? I was not told about that. And if it's not yours, then don't tell it. Excellent execution of avoiding gossip and hurting other people with knowledge.
That's true.
Good job, that person.
Good job, you.
And I think that's where we can leave that. That's a really great example of how to avoid that.
Sure.
The next and the last story. Let me check how much time we got. We're doing great. The next and last story. Oh, no. I had one more point about gossip.
Oh.
I lied to you. Not the next one. Putting oneself above others to get ahead or lacking of empathy. So somebody who might be defaulted to doing gossip is thinking about it in a like, I'm better than this person. You might not.
There is that form of gossip. That's true.
Might not be in the forefront, but specifically in the case of Brienne. Brianna? Is that what we called her? Brienne?
I don't think it matters.
Whatever. That person, it was, I'm better than this person because I don't drink. And that was I'm better than you. And a lot of things people do that. It's like, I'm not like this slutty celebrity. I am,
I have more chastity.
I have morals.
Or morals. Like, yeah, it's
I'm not like, bigoted person on the other side of the political spectrum. I have blah, blah, blah. So let's talk shit about this thing. Again, you have to ask, are they being harmful? By all means, let's talk about it. Let's make sure everybody's aware. But if it's just like personal, and they look really ugly in that suit. Like, okay, now you're just it's a superiority thing. Like, what about the really kind and lovely people who have the same body type?
Well, you start to see the mirror because they think that they're better than you. And that's why that conflict is even happening. So by saying, and they have this, and they have that, and I would never, well, now you're being just like them.
Yes.
That's when the mirror starts coming up. Mm-hmm. And that just gets you nowhere real fast.
Yep. And it's hurt. Does everybody just hurt? It just hurts everybody involved. It hurts you because you are just creating this vacuum for yourself into perpetual negativity.
Yeah.
And then you are hurting others, the person who's involved. You're making them feel like shit just for trying their best. I know it doesn't seem like it, but a lot of people are just trying their best. Everybody is just trying their best.
You don't want to become what you hate also. You don't want to become that. And it's very easy to, because it feels justified too.
Yeah, gossip tends to feel very justified.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to say about that. I just had another thought, but I won't. It was about venting.
Venting is
I was gonna say
different from gossip, though.
It can become gossip very easily.
It can be if you vent to everyone.
I mean, gossip if everyone, but still, it's like the game of telephone. Tell one person who can't keep a secret, and then you vented to the wrong person, and then it's gossip.
Sure.
But simultaneously, I was gonna say, if that does happen, if something is earworming you and you just want to get it out, I think that book, Letting Go, it talks about how to deal with that without talking, because dwelling on and thinking about the same thing over and over and over again
makes you relive it.
Actually makes you relive it, and it suppresses it, so you're actually just living with that emotion longer. Venting actually isn't getting it out. It is perpetuating the reason for why you feel that way as you live through the thought process over and over and over again, because your brain can't differentiate between a thought and reality, and so your body reacts that way. So the best tip I got for that, to avoid gossip and to avoid accidentally gossip during venting, is sit with yourself quietly in a room, close the door, and identify the emotion, not the thought that caused the emotion or the happening that caused the emotion, the emotion. What is it? How does it feel in your body? Try to give it a color, try to give it a shape. Where is it in your body?
Yeah. And
try to really give it a visual. And if you have aphantasia, ask yourself, what would this look like? And just first thought that comes to your head. Sure. Like, where on my body would it be? My knee. Like, you can just decide. And sit with it. Feel it for 5 minutes. 5 whole minutes. No, and if you find yourself thinking about the scenario, turn it off and remember that visual, or remember that
We're
location.
just thinking about the feeling.
The feeling, not the cause.
Not the cause or the story behind it.
And it will fade. And then when you're done, 5 minutes is up, imagine taking it out of your body and putting it on the floor and being like, I let this go. We're done with this now. Will it come back? Sure. But that's going to be a lot more conducive to your body's physiology in healing and not thought spiraling.
Than venting is.
Than venting. Because venting is going to accidentally turn into gossip, hurt people's feelings. And
sometimes venting feels good. I'm with you. But I know it's not healthy.
I think the last tip was somebody said, vent for 5 minutes, be done, and then do that for 5 minutes. Like, be mad and vent and rant and rave for 5 minutes.
But vent good.
And then stop. And then go do the thing I just said.
Yep.
And let it go.
Journaling also works.
Journaling works as well.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to journal because people would look into your stuff, make a fake language like I did in high school.
That's extensive. If you're extra as hell and you want to make a whole language, do that. And then you can write whatever you want. No one knows.
Yeah, it worked real good. Okay, last thing. The last question of the video, of the toxic video, was, okay. The answer to this one was emotional blackmail.
Emotional blackmail. Okay, so
this was the one where the question was like, player is a parent's kid has grown up.
A lot of it, yeah, go ahead.
And parent's kid is like, I don't want
to have the bitches emporium.
We made a joke that player runs a very like toxic store or something. The bitch emporium.
Something that is, again, from the changing of, just like toxic masculinity was from that changing of time. So the older parent, the older generation has this store called the Bitches Emporium. And obviously we don't refer to women as bitches, but this person does.
Yeah. And so that the grown child goes to player as a parent and goes, I don't want to run the Bitch Emporium. I respect women, and I think we shouldn't call women bitches, and I want to be a musician.
And
so what's the toxic thing to do as the parent? Like, you're heartbroken and you feel alone and betrayed and backstabbed.
And
like,
I believe I say, I know this one personally.
Yeah.
All you have to do is emotionally blackmail someone.
Yeah, and I'm just going to die alone.
You
can I'll never speak to you again. You can just hate me forever, and I've just only given you love, but you can just, basically you're killing me dead.
You're killing me dead. As opposed to not dead killing, but yes. And I think I've had a lot of experience with this, but
me too.
You start, you care about the person. This person has, this person has some sort of authority, some sort of heightened position in your eyes, and they have a level of respect from you. That's why you care about their opinion so much.
And that could be a parent. In many cases, it's a parent, but it also could be in a relationship, because we put our relationships on a pretty high pedestal. It could be emotional blackmail. Friendship. Yeah. Emotional blackmail, anybody that you give authority and respect to.
Bosses.
But I think in my personal experience, with David's personal experience, it's been intergenerational family stuff. Right. And that's what I really wanted to drive home here, was like, one, as the person who is having that done to you, you are not a bad person for being true to yourself and for stopping generational trauma with you by separating yourself from something that is harmful and hurtful to your well-being and the well-being of your future family or friends or the world around you or whatever. You're not bad for separating yourself from that. And it is the person who holds the authority's responsibility to seek reparation and take accountability to not make what is already hard, which is breaking a family cycle or breaking a friendship cycle or a social standard, to feel even worse about what is already very difficult. Because going against the grain of your social circle is very, very hard.
And that's why I think improving as a person in general, continually, no matter what age you are, is so important, because the blackmail comes from the lack that the person in authority has when they're given a position of power that unfortunately leaks into the person they have power over. And that they subconsciously know that. And so they use this form of control, which is emotional blackmail, because they don't know how to, they can't fathom relinquishing that control. and they want what they want really badly.
They also have this, it's often birthed from a traumatic event in their own life.
Right.
So a lot of people stop emotionally maturing at the age of a trauma. So if something happens that's extremely traumatic, not in every situation, but in many cases, a traumatic situation will kind of halt the emotional maturing process in a person. So if there's many of our parents, like, I'm putting it in parents because like this is the one that makes sense. And
right.
also us growing up, so our social circles, friends, and relationships as well. We just kind of, something happens and, you know, the boomers grew up with lead in their water, my man.
Yeah.
Like, and I also think that they're the generation that got raised on let the baby cry it out, which is actually what starts narcissism. That's a whole nother video, but
No, yeah.
It starts as a baby being forced to cry it out because they're informed at a fundamental core potato level that their needs aren't going to be met from anybody but themselves. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of people who have a lot of trauma that stopped and halted their emotional maturity capabilities from a vast amount of very sad and fucked up things that should have never happened to anybody. But
when that's not dealt with,
it's not dealt with, it's not addressed.
Here comes the manifestation of these negative traits.
These negative traits and emotional blackmail. It has, like I said earlier, all energy must be expressed, and it will be expressed one way or the other. If this was never dealt with, it is now being inflicted upon your kids or your friend or your relationship. So it's the natural cycle. Like, should that have happened to you? No.
No, absolutely not.
Of course not. That should have never happened. But is it the person's responsibility to force themselves to be around it? No. It's your responsibility to take care of yourself. So if the default of like, I just don't want them to leave, I just don't want something bad to happen, I want what I want, and I don't know how else to express that, so let me make them feel bad. No. Like, especially
when you have their respect, act in a way that dictates that.
Yeah.
You have a responsibility, and with great responsibility comes
great power comes great responsibility.
With great power comes great responsibility. Get the quote right.
Yeah. And for some reason, for some people, that's harder than others. I mean, me personally, as much as it's been frustrating to deal with, I have a, like, I don't know, something in me just clicks. Something whenever, like, the guilt happens, I'm going to do it the most now. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't actually feel bad about it. Something in me just turns off, and I get very, like, angry, and I'm like, see, I wasn't going to do it before you said that, but now I'm going to do it the most. Feel no remorse for it.
It's the rebellion in you.
I don't know. Like, don't manipulate me with pain. Like, don't take your trauma and try to manipulate me with it. Now you're alone in your trauma. Now what? Like...
Yeah.
And that's just me. I know it's not that easy for everybody, particularly when it is something like a friendship that you've had for a really long time.
Or if you're a people pleaser.
Or you're a people pleaser. Or
because of your upbringing.
Your whole system of upbringing, not just one or two people. Your whole system is dependent on this cycle of this. It's so hard to leave, and it's not that easy for everybody.
Maybe it's even cultural, which I won't get into, but, you know.
Yeah.
What?
I was like, you would know.
But I would know. Being as somewhat in our culture, you have these positions. No, I'm not really going to get into it, but you have these positions that
what culture is that? For those who don't know who you are.
I'm Puerto Rican.
And Taino.
And you're Hispanic. In many minority cultures, though, it's kind of this understanding that the parent is almost God level. Like... and it's a lot of stereotypes that the newer generations are breaking now. And that is that no matter what, your parent's always right. No matter what, because that's your only mom, that's your only dad, that's your only brother, that's your only any family member,
uncle,
whatever it is. And that lets things they have the power over you. So it could be in culture as well.
And to break culture is
And to break culture is very
big fucking deal.
Yeah, I mean, you have all the kinds of stereotypes that come with that, or you think you're not Hispanic, you think you're not XYZ, whatever it is that is fear-inducing, guilt-inducing, you're not being the way you're supposed to be, and that's very hard to break.
It's a very difficult thing. I think of all of them, the emotional blackmail is probably the hardest thing to untangle. Sure. Because all one can do who is having it done to them is separate themselves from the situation. But typically if it's being done, it's in a very deeply entwined situation.
Yeah, and that person already has some sort of authority, but a level of reverence to you.
Yeah.
So they already are within your boundaries.
And the other side of that is, again, the whole point of this video is everybody can do this. Everybody can do this and without meaning to. It's like when we find ourselves guilting somebody to have them behave in a way that we desire.
Yeah.
We need to have that drawn attention to. So before it gets to the point that you're a parent of a 20-year-old who wants to not own a bitch's store, you'd stop it now. You know, like, oh, shit. Well, let me make sure that I'm worrying about myself. Why do I want this person? Why do I want this person to behave in a certain way? Why am I trying to control this person? And at the end of the day, you have to accept that everybody's on their own journey.
Yeah.
And if that person goes and does that, that is that person's journey.
Yeah.
And if that's what they need, then that's what they need. And so to cling and control, guilting and emotional blackmail is just an attempt at control out of fear of not being wanted or loved yourself.
Yep. And you have to have that empathy because you understand yourself. You're trying to make this right journey, this right choice for yourself. You need to have a balance. It's not villainize the people who are doing it because they are on their own journey and they have their own reason for doing them. So before you throw that person of authority, your parent, the teacher, the whoever you admire under the bus for doing such things to you, understand that they themselves are going through something that they have to deal with. It's not your job to fix it for them.
No.
But at least understand where they're coming from and why it's done. It's not, most of the time, it's unaware.
Yeah. I mean, which sounds crazy. Like, what do you mean they don't know what they're doing? In some capacity, everybody knows what they're doing.
Sure.
But it goes back to that unwillingness to admit it to oneself, that shadow thing that I talked about before.
Yep.
It's like
it can go deep.
It can go really deep. And there's an acknowledgement of the humanity of a person of like, well, this really bad thing happened to them. Of course they're like that. It's like, cool, I accept. And I'm so like sad that happened to them, but their improvement is not my responsibility.
Exactly.
My improvement is my responsibility. And if that means that I need to separate myself to improve myself, then that's okay. And if somebody spirals and just, you know, foaming at the mouth about it, then okay. Like that's not for you to worry about. And again,
that's why it's so important to continue always improving yourself, because if you're improving yourself, it echoes, right? Just like if you're toxic, it echoes in other areas of your life and other people. Well, if you're fixing yourselves and they're fixing themselves, then that issue won't actually arise, right? So,
and if something does happen, it's like, oh, I know that I'm like this, and I realize that I did this. I did that. I did this very specific thing, and that's not okay, and you don't deserve that, so I will try to be better.
Communication is a lot easier if you're trying to improve.
Because nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody's just going to fix it out of nowhere, especially things that have been so ingrained from a fundamental psychological level so young. But that's why it's like you're in charge of yourself.
Right.
And
I think that's it. Yeah,
that's
I think
everything
on this video.
On that one, all of those, believe it or not, some of those even have more stories, but we're not trying to get everybody who knows us on a personal level somehow mad at us.
No, I think this covered what we wanted to cover.
Yeah.
If you want more updates on future podcasts, be sure to follow us on Twitter at OnTheChairPod.
Or if you want updates about our lives in general, including some podcast stuff maybe sometimes, you can follow us anywhere at The Doodles. That's at the DOOTLEZ.
At the DOOTLEZ.
We upload this podcast once a month. The next episode should actually already be out because we're backlogging a few episodes before we launch.
So be sure to go check those out.
Be sure to check those out. And you can listen to the podcast when we upload it once a month in tandem with our YouTube videos on any podcasting service that you prefer, because we're just that good.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.